Where am I? Am I in the Victorian era? Where are all my friends? Where are they? Hey, hello friends.
Darling.
Hello.
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 Okay, so it's my turn first. Let me talk first. So the first part I will present about the background of Victorian. So what is Victorian?
Ooh,
Yeah, so what Victorian is to describe the present themselves, the way they portray themselves, the way how they receive the knowledge, how they invent the new era from the previous era. So this historical period was under the ruler of Queen Victoria. And one thing you should know is that Queen Victoria was crowned at the age of 19. Can you imagine that? That was too young, right? So during this era, she was chosen and she was crowned as the queen from 20 June 1837 until her death on 32nd of January 1901. So this era is known for its new revolution in terms of industrialization, in terms of the economics. So it has gained Britain status for as the most powerful empire during this era. Empire in the world during this era. So at the same time, the Britain was known as one of the most powerful nations with a rich culture, which has a stable government, a growing state, and expanding franchise. So during this period of time, during this period of era, even though that the population of the working class is more than the upper class, but it has brings more what they call as degree of industrialization, where the era, the monarch was the era was known to be the most wealthiest period of time. And the next one will be in terms of other than their institution and their commercial success, they are also known as some of the characteristics that has been widely known by the world, such as the revolt. For example, where there was a theory about the human revolution, where it was proven by the Charles Darwin. Do you know about it? Okay. It was there's a conflict with of the we have Charles Dickens and both if I'm not so that's all from me. So let's move on to the next.
Okay. History. Let's hear some history.
Hello. Hi. In the history of the United Kingdom, the Victorian era was a period where Queen Victoria reigned from the 1837 until her death of the year 1901. Do you know that the Victorian era was the time of the world's first industrial revolution, political reform, and many social changes? You know, in this Victorian era also, the 63 period from 1837 that marked the reign of England's Queen Victoria. Therefore, she also witnessed and experienced a downfall of rural life as cities rapidly grew and expanded. Long and regimented factory hours. So the start of the Crimean War and also the Jack Ripper. You know, fun fact, during this Victorian era, Charles Dickens was birthed as an English writer and also social critic. He created some of the world's best known fictional characters and is regarded by many as the greatest novelist in the era. So example books that have been written within this era is I know that most of you all know is David Copperfield, Oliver Twist, and not that so famous is The Great Expectations. So that's Charles Dickens, one of the best literature writers in this era. Yeah. So we're moving on to the next topic.
Okay, so hi everyone. So I'll be talking about the lifestyle of the Victorian era. So as you can see, we can see a lot of changes in their lifestyle. In terms of economic revolution, as you can see, agriculture is not more active as all. There are more main game in the factories, and industrial enterprise was the main game of the Victorian era. And most of the 80% of England population lives in a city because the factories were built in the cities, so as the job opportunities as well. So as you can see, in fact, the people in the Victorian era who was the person who started to use electricity for the first time and to listen music, playing records, certain gramophones and such. So as you can see in the people of the Victorian era, so most of the people, they hold to more on the cultural type, and the people who lived in that era would mostly obey on their culture. So as like importance of family and such, most of the people, like all men you can see in the lifestyle there, the people who always wear hat. As you can see, rich people would wear a top hat, and the poor people would be normally using as a small cap, something like that. And as you can see, the another thing is according to the traditional rules on that era. So the people, the women in the era who were supposed to not work, just do their chores, take care of the kids, while the men will be earning the money. So if the women has the chance either to work, but as for following the culture and the traditional wise, so wives and women should be stayed at home looking for jobs, and the children as well. So as we can see from the social structure of the Victorian era, there are societies are divided into three, which is the upper class, middle class, and the working class. So as you can see, the upper class are the more powerful authorities, such as the judge and the politician and so on. So the middle class is not as an ordinary person, as a businessman, doing some sort of business. Working class is normally stated as the poor people, and you can see they are always be working, so that's their children as well for their basic needs. And their structure, the social structure of the Victorian era, there's a strong presence of male dominance in that era as well, in the society. So that's all for the lifestyle. So moving on to the next.
The trends.
Yeah.
Okay, sorry. Okay, so talking about the popular what's popular or the trend during the era. So basically, it's based on their hair and makeup, and basically women's hair was generally worn long, caught up in a chignon or bun. In the 1840s, ringlets of curls hang on either side of the head, and in the 1870s, women draw up the side hair but let it hang in long, loose curls in back. Crimping became popular in the early 1870s. Moving on to the next is they basically use corset. So okay, corset is an undergarment set which is strips of whale bone, actually whale belly, later replaced by steel. Okay, with even though it is criticized as unhealthy and certainly uncomfortable, corsets were a fashion staple throughout the 19th century, granting women's social status, respectability, and the idealized figure of youth. Often called as stays from the French estaille, meaning support. Basically, corsets were thought to provide support to women, the weaker sex. Moving on to the next trend is tattoo. Okay, so basically, tattoo is another popular trend that we probably wouldn't have associated with the property-loving Victorian is tattoo. So basically, people in Victorian era, for the people who is actually common for at least aristocrat to get tattoo sometimes multiple ones. Okay, actually, this tattoo, basically the people
Okay, the, the aristocrat people will have one or more tattoo at their body. Moving on to next is hydrotherapy. Okay, so nowadays we might consider water treatment as a luxury reserve for those with filled with pockets. But in the Victorian era, it was one of the common cures. From baldness to hysteria, water treatment was used to alleviate pains to all common ailments. And then next is nipple piercing. Okay, nowadays people can pierce any part of your body. So basically from this Victorian era, uh, in the late 19th century, a fad of nipple piercing became an overnight success with the ladies. After the nipple was pierced, a gold bosom ring was inserted. Sometimes two rings were joined by a chain. And then one notable theory suggests the fad came into being because women believe nipple rings will make their breasts grow rounder and more attractive. For the last one is pelvic massages. Okay, in the Victorian era, women will get diagnosed with hysteria for the simple things. Basically, anything that bother her husband and any other male. Alright. To be honest, basically it was a tribute like this pelvic massage seemed to exclusively affect women with pelvic finger massage. Of course, okay. Doctor would use this method in order to cause what they call hysterical paroxysm. Okay, that's all for my part. Thank you. Moving on to the next. Yes.
Hi. So today we're going to discuss on the era characteristics. What are the three main era characteristics? I'm going to spill the tea. So the first one is rich in economy. Like said before, Victorian era is the main game when it comes to economy. They had trades for clothes, food, and they were the best, the biggest, the powerful country among all the other countries. And because of that, their nation and the population of their people boost up to 16 million. Isn't that amazing? I know. And then the next one is industrialization. So that was the era Alexander Graham Bell decided to create these inventions, telephones, gramophones, and all these things that are so amazing until today. And not just that, the working standards also improved because of the sudden emergence of towns and also the build of railways. It was amazing. And the last part is architecture, art, and photography. So the main three aspects that are seen as something aesthetic and also seen as art. For example, architecture were created as something that is a combination of Gothic and more traditional elements, which was fine aesthetically pleasing. And for art, it was an evolution when it comes to music and paintings and all that things. And photography emerged in the era, and Queen Victoria became the first monarch to ever be recognized by the people. And next, let's move on to the fashion. So fashion, what's so amazing about the fashion? So fashion is something that is classified by the social class. So if you're in a low social class, it means you would wear something that's very thin or it doesn't look proper. And if you're in the middle class, you wear something that's more not too fancy or less fancy. It's just a right combination between the two. And if you're a higher social class, an aristocrat, you will wear something that made either satin, you will wear the finest fabrics or velvet. And during that time, velvets were just in trend. It was a thing. And men fashion, they usually wear something. It focuses on the pants, the trousers, and their coat, like a tailcoat, and the top hat and accessories were something that defined their social class, especially for men, because they cannot be seen as something weak. Well, men were dominating in almost every aspect. And women, it's something that's very basic, something that you see almost on every movie. And it was mostly inspired from Dickens' costume. So Dickens' costume is made out of the Victorian dress, a shawl, a bonnet, and a hoop skirt or also a petticoat to make it more fluffy. And yes, so women have to wear boots. They aren't allowed to wear something that is below the ankle because you gotta cover those ankle, girls. You can't wear it. So that is all from me for fashion and characteristics. Moving on to the famous figures and the famous artworks.
So moving on to the most famous figure. Our next famous figure is a writer. She was Charlotte Bronte of the Bronte sisters. She was born in 1816. She was the eldest of the Bronte sisters. She was 5 years old when her mother passed away, and she also started writing poetry and stories at a very young age. So after her 18th birthday, she also became a teacher and a governess for some time. When she was 20 years of age, she wrote her first novel, but was rejected many times. So she also collaborated with her sisters Emily and Anne Bronte and wrote under the pen name of Cara Bronte, while Elizabeth was Alice and Anne was Agnes Bronte. So her first book that she published was Jane Eyre, 1847. Next was Shirley, 1849, and last one was Galati, 1853. And sadly, she passed away after she was married. She passed away she was pregnant due to complications. But there was another book that was also published after her death. It was The Professor, the very first novel which many publishers rejected due to her gender. She was writing in an era where they were discriminated against women writing and said that it's more male dominated. So the Professor actually came out after her death. It was 1857, and I believe that's all.
So, moving on to the fun fact. So, the first is Christmas tree. So, the practice of putting Christmas tree was introduced by Albert, the husband of Queen Victoria. He was born in Germany, where the Christmas tree was common, and he brought the culture into the English population in 1840. So, the second is Victorian natural beauty. So, in Victorian era, makeup was considered as symbol of prostitution, and they proclaimed that lipsticks is a witchcraft because it has the ability to seduce men. That's why women in Victorian era prefer natural beauty. They would pinch the cheek until it reddened and cold cream for beauty glow. The third is meat mask for beauty. Victorian believes that meat mask is good to restore the youthful look. They often put slices of raw beef at night in order to prevent wrinkle and radiant complexion. So lastly, modesty board. In Victorian era, it is a taboo for a woman to show a single ankle. The ever-industrial Victorian created modesty board. The board would be propped on the ground to ensure the woman's ankle were not visible when they seated. That's all.
Okay, I think it's pretty amazing, isn't it? So, Sharifa, is that what you call us out for? To explain about the Victorian era? Sharifa? Okay, never mind. So, I guess that's all about the Victorian era, isn't it? I feel that it is amazing.
Yeah, for the beauty.
Well, I would say that Victoria. Yes.
Totally. So, bye.
Bye.